So, I've got to tell you about Sarah and Mark. They were this super cute couple, totally in love. They lived in a small apartment, nothing fancy, just cozy. Sarah was all about planning their wedding. She was obsessed with picking out flowers, table settings, the whole deal. Mark was just happy to see her happy. He's a mechanic, works with his hands, grew up in a small town. Sarah, though, came from money. Her family had this big house, fancy cars, all that. They never really liked Mark. He wasn't their type, too regular, not some rich guy. But Sarah didn't care. She loved him, and they were solid. At least, that's how it looked. A week before the wedding, everything went sideways. Mark woke up, and Sarah was gone. Bed empty, her phone left behind. He freaked out, called everyone, her friends, her sister. Nobody knew anything. Then her mom, Evelyn, sent him this weird text. Said Sarah ran off with some ex. Like, out of nowhere, she's gone with this guy from her past. The message even hinted Sarah had this sketchy history she never told Mark about. Partying, bad choices, that kind of thing. Mark was gutted. He felt like she played him. How could she hide something like that? Was their whole relationship fake? He couldn't stop thinking about it. He kept pacing their apartment, looking at her stuff. Her jacket on the couch, her coffee mug on the counter. It didn't add up. Sarah's family was loaded, sure, and they always acted like Mark wasn't good enough. Evelyn would give him these cold looks at dinners, and her dad was polite but distant. Now this text from Evelyn felt off. Like, why would Sarah just vanish? Mark started questioning everything. Did she really have this wild past? He couldn't picture it. She was always so open, so real with him. That night, he started digging through her desk, desperate for answers. He found wedding stuff, invitations, a photo of them at a carnival, smiling like idiots. Then he saw this letter, folded up tight with his name on it. His heart was racing as he opened it. It was in Sarah's handwriting, but the words were brutal. She said she was leaving him, going back to someone else, that she couldn't be with him anymore. It hit like a punch. But something wasn't right. The paper looked too new, the writing too neat. It didn't sound like her at all. Too harsh, too cold. Mark's head was spinning. Was this letter even real? Did someone fake it? Mark was a mess. That letter, the one that didn't sound like Sarah, was eating him up. He sat at his laptop, alone in their apartment, trying to make sense of it all. Evelyn's text about Sarah running off with an ex and having some shady past was stuck in his head. He had to know if it was true. He guessed Sarah's email password, something they'd shared ages ago. It felt wrong, but he was desperate. When he got in, he found this email thread with some guy named Ethan. It was flirty, talking about meeting up like they were planning something. Then there were photos, Sarah with this guy, laughing, looking close. The dates were recent, way too recent. Mark's stomach dropped. Was she really cheating? Did he even know her? He kept reading. Another email mentioned Sarah's past, like she'd been this wild party girl who'd done stuff she never told him about. It hurt to read. He thought about their late-night talks, how she'd seemed so honest. Now he was questioning everything. Was their love real? He couldn't sleep, just kept staring at those emails. The next morning, he called Lila, Sarah's best friend. She got in the same text from Evelyn, with the photos and all. But Lila's sounded unsure. She said the pictures looked off, like they'd been messed with. The way Sarah was standing, the lighting, it didn't add up. Mark felt a tiny bit of hope. Maybe this wasn't what it seemed. He drove to Sarah's family's huge house. It always made him feel out of place, like he didn't belong. Evelyn answered the door, all fake smiles. She offered him coffee, acting like she felt bad for him, saying Sarah was always troubled. Mark played it cool, asking if Sarah ever mentioned this Ethan guy. Evelyn's eyes flicked, just for a second, but he caught it. She went on about Sarah needing to be free, not tied down to someone like him. The way she said it, like he was less than stung. He left, feeling her staring him down. She was definitely hiding something. Back home, he started digging online. He looked up Sarah's old social media, school records, anything he could find. There was nothing about a wild past. Just normal stuff, college, some volunteer work, a few trips. No parties, no scandals. The emails and photos started feeling fake. He called a buddy who knew tech stuff, and the guy checked the emails. They were sent from a sketchy IP address, one tied to Evelyn's office. Mark's jaw dropped. Evelyn made this all up? To break them up? Because he wasn't rich enough for her precious daughter? He was pissed, but he needed to find Sarah. He went through her stuff again and found a receipt for a cabin rental way out in the middle of nowhere. It was a long shot, but it was something. He grabbed his keys and hit the road. The drive was long, the cabin buried deep in the woods. His mind was racing. Why would Evelyn do this? What was she hiding? As he got closer, he heard rumors in a nearby gas station. People talking about Sarah's family, how they kept secrets. His gut told him he was close. The cabin was just ahead, and whatever was waiting there would blow this whole thing wide open. Mark pulled up to the cabin, heart pounding. It was small, hidden in thick woods, the kind of place you'd miss if you weren't looking. The receipt he found pointed him here, and those gas station whispers about Sarah's family secrets had him on edge. Evelyn's lies, the fake emails, the staged photos were starting to make sense. She'd made it all up to keep Sarah away from him. He wasn't rich, wasn't part of their fancy world, and Evelyn hated that. But why go this far? Why hide Sarah? Mark got out of the car, the quiet eerie. He had to find her. The cabin door creaked open. Inside was dark, dusty. A chair, a cold fireplace, and there, Sarah's blue scarf on a table. Seeing it hit him hard. He remembered the day they met. Her car had broken down in the rain, and he'd fixed it, hands covered in grease. She'd smiled, not caring about his dirty shirt or small-town vibe. Her family's wealth was obvious. Her nice clothes, the way she carried herself, but she never made him feel less. Now, knowing Evelyn was behind this, he wondered how much pressure Sarah had been under. He searched the cabin, finding signs she'd been there. A plate with crumbs, a book she liked. Then, under a loose floorboard, he found a journal. It was Sarah's, filled with her handwriting. He sat down, reading fast. She wrote about her mom, how Evelyn controlled everything, how she pushed Sarah to date better guys, ones with money and status. Sarah wrote about loving Mark but feeling trapped. Evelyn had told her Mark didn't want her anymore, that he thought she was too good for him. Sarah's words were full of pain, doubt, fear. Mark's anger at Evelyn boiled, but then it shifted. He felt bad for Sarah. She'd been lied to, cut off, made to think he'd given up on her. He thought back to their early days, how they'd laugh over cheap pizza, how she'd tease him about his old truck. Her family's world, big houses, fancy parties, always felt like a wall between them. Evelyn's cold stares, her dad's awkward small talk, it all made sense now. Sarah had been fighting that pressure alone. Mark gripped the journal, more determined than ever. He had to get her out of this mess, show her the truth. He stepped outside, scanning the woods. A narrow path led deeper in, barely visible. He followed it, heart racing. Then he saw her, Sarah, standing by some trees, looking lost. She was thinner, her eyes dull, not the bright Sarah he knew. She looked broken, like the lies had worn her down. He wanted to run to her, but he held back, scared she'd bolt. What had Evelyn done to her? How much had she believed those lies? He took a step, ready to call out, but his throat tightened. This was it. He was about to face her, and whatever came next would change everything. Mark stood frozen, watching Sarah by the trees. She looked so fragile, not the strong woman he knew. Her eyes were empty, her shoulders slumped. The journal in his hand felt heavy with her pain. He took a step, calling her name softly. She jumped, eyes wide, like she didn't believe it was him. She backed up, shaking her head. He could see it. She thought he'd ditched her. Evelyn's lies had sunken deep. Mark kept his voice calm, telling her he never stopped looking for her. He showed her the journal, the fake letter, the emails. Her face crumpled as she listened. Tears fell, and she let him get closer. They sat on the ground, going through it all. Sarah said Evelyn had told her Mark didn't want her anymore, that he thought she was a liar. She'd been stuck in that cabin, alone, believing it. Mark explained how Evelyn faked everything. The photos, the emails about some guy named Ethan, the stories about her past. It was all to keep Sarah away from him, to protect their rich family's image. She was mad, hurt, but relieved too. Mark was there, and he hadn't given up on her. They drove back to the city, Sarah quiet, but holding his hand tight. Mark knew they had to face Evelyn. They went straight to her family's big house. Evelyn was there, all calm and fake sweet, like nothing was wrong. Sarah's dad, Richard, was in the living room, looking tired. Mark laid it all out. The journal, the receipt for the cabin, the fake emails. Sarah told them how she'd been locked away, fed lies about Mark. Richard looked shocked, his face going pale. That's when it hit them. He didn't know. Evelyn had told him Sarah needed time alone, that Mark had hurt her. He believed every word, just like Sarah had. The room got tense. Sarah was crying, telling her dad how scared she'd been, how she thought Mark hated her. Richard turned to Evelyn, asking if it was true. She tried to brush it off, saying Sarah was confused, that she was just protecting her. But Mark kept pushing, showing the evidence. The journal, the emails traced to Evelyn's office, the cabin rental. Richard's voice got sharp, demanding answers. Evelyn's cool act started to crack. She snapped, saying she did it for the family, for their reputation. Mark wasn't good enough, she said, not part of their world. But her words sounded weak now. The truth was out and it was too much. Richard shook his head, hurt in his eyes. Sarah looked at her mom, voice steady, saying she was done being controlled. Mark felt the air shift, like a weight was lifting. But Evelyn wasn't backing down completely. She kept denying parts of it, even as the proof piled up. Something big was coming, and they all knew it. The family was about to break apart or come together, and there was no going back. Sarah let out a shaky breath, like she could finally breathe. Mark squeezed her hand. They left the house, not looking back. Back at their apartment, they talked for hours. No big speeches, just real stuff. They admitted how much the lies hurt, how the whole class thing, her rich family, his regular life, had always been there. But they were done letting it tear them apart. They decided to go ahead with the wedding, but different this time. No fancy venue, no guest list full of snobs. Just a small day by the lake, with people who mattered. It felt right, like they were taking their lives back. The wedding happened a few weeks later. Just a handful of chairs, some flowers Sarah picked out herself. She walked to Mark in a simple dress, smiling like she used to. They said their vows, promising to stick together no matter what. Lila was there, crying happy tears. Richard showed up too, looking proud but quiet. Evelyn didn't come, and nobody was surprised. It was their day, no drama, no lies. They danced under some cheap string lights, and Mark felt like everything was finally okay. Sarah was back, and they were stronger than ever. A week later, a letter showed up at their place. It was from Evelyn, her handwriting all neat but shaky. Mark didn't want to open it, but Sarah said they should. It wasn't an apology, not really. Evelyn wrote about how she'd been scared of losing Sarah, of their family looking bad. She didn't say sorry, but you could tell she felt something, maybe regret, maybe shame. She mentioned watching Sarah grow up, how she'd wanted to keep her close. The letter just stopped, like she couldn't finish. Sarah read it, then set it down. She didn't cry. She said she was done letting her mom control her. They burned the letter in their fireplace, watching it turn to ash. It felt like letting go. Life moved on. Mark went back to fixing cars, Sarah to her art. Their apartment was full of little things, coffee mugs, her sketches, his tools in the corner. They talked about the future, maybe a kid someday, a house of their own. The whole class thing didn't matter anymore. It was just them, building something real. One night, they sat by the lake, same place as their wedding. Stars were out, and Sarah leaned into Mark. They didn't say much, just held hands. Everything felt warm, like the worst was behind them. They had each other, and that was enough.